Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Around the Table GTA. This topic is going to be a little bit off. I don't think it's really off. I do talk about nice topics, I talk about dark topics. It's just how I'm feeling. But this topic is going to be about clearing your head and the importance of that, especially when you get older, especially when you have more responsibilities in your life. You tend to not be able to de stress properly. And with social media just amplifying everything, where you could see so called instant success, or even how someone's like weight loss journey, for example, goes so smoothly, a lot of people don't tell the true story. And what I mean by that is they highlight all the great parts, and we don't get to see the struggles because sometimes that's something that's very hard to share, and some people don't want to show their weaker side. I think we all know someone who is like that, and at the same time, you don't really want to be vulnerable to a lot of people because some people can use that against you, and it can make you feel even worse about whatever you're feeling. But the main topic is clearing your mind. This topic is based off a conversation that I had with someone. It wasn't even really a conversation. It was just really short because we're in the elevator. But it reminded me of a situation because every time I do kind of meet up with that friend, we're both like frantically in a hurry, and then we're talking about different stuff, or it's a very short window because it's just how our relationship at the time is. But almost every other time, they always talk about how different the world is, or how much danger it is now because they have children and they're concerned about their kids. So, there's a lot of strict things that happen. And then in our last conversation, we were talking about curfews, and my life has been a lot more different than other people's lives. I guess even how I grew up, I've mentioned it in many other episodes. It's just that everybody around the area knew each other, so there wasn't so many crazy rules. It only was until a certain time where there was all these rules and people started becoming paranoid, like being able to be out at 12 on a Saturday or like a Thursday in the middle of the summer. Being 8 years old is strange to some people, but when you're in a community where everyone watches out for each other, or everybody is caring, or a majority of the people know each other, so no matter what, everyone's watching someone. You could have children do what they need to do. I'm going to go off on another story where I was talking to another friend, and I don't know if I showed them the video or they showed me the video, but it was kids in Japan, and like apparently kids in Japan, they dress them up in a certain way, and kids as young as 4 are walking around navigating the world. They're going to the grocery store, they're taking the bus, they're taking the subway, and they're marked in a certain way where people can help the children, and the children get to explore that curiosity. Not every area in the world is like Japan where you could be that trustworthy, and obviously there's bad people everywhere. But when a society makes certain things more open, you could see the change in the life of the youth and even the adults around. So when they talk about, oh, the world's getting more dangerous, because back to the first story, I didn't really have a curfew. Yeah, I had a curfew at a certain age, but especially when it was in my teens, I didn't really have too much of a curfew. The circumstances are a little bit different. I don't necessarily have to share that. I'm not going to share all of it, but basically, my parents trusted me enough to be wherever as long as I made a phone call And that was like the closest thing to a curfew, because despite not knowing the full me, because you don't know the full of anybody, whether it's your children, whether it's your sister, whether it's your partner, whether it's your parents, you don't know that, right? But they trusted me enough to do basically whatever I wanted. And, it's been like that for a good chunk of my life, but I just guess I'm a different breed. But like I said, my friend was like super worried, and their cousin was in the elevator too. And it's just like, weren't you doing all these crazy stuff at that age, anyways? And it was a funny conversation. Like, oh, well, things were different back then. It's just like things weren't really that much different outside of like the internet. There's still creepy people. Probably there was like less people in our city and stuff. So there is a bit of a difference, but it's just that trust in whether it's your child or your partner or whoever you're working with or being around, to know that, you could trust them with something, or you could give that type of freedom. And that's a thing about clearing your mind, where there's certain things that you don't have to worry about. There's certain things that you don't need to stress yourself about. And that's something that I'm trying to teach other people, especially when I have to work with them. Because like I said in previous episodes, I'm usually working by myself or in an area where I'm by myself. I'm the boss and people listen to me. I don't have to work with anybody else except for the people who work with me or under me, if you want to talk politics in the workplace, right? So it's easier when you have 100% control. But when you're dealing with other people, you have to deal with egos, you have to deal with style, you have to deal with whatever they're dealing with too. And it can be a headache, but at the end of the day, when you have a clear mind, it's hard to get super stressed over something, because you're doing what it takes to take that compression off of you, to find a path to keep yourself above the line. And I'm just going to explain that. I did a course, and there's like being above the line and being below the line. Being below the line is basically when you're stressed and you're not thinking in the right way. You're acting out in a way that you don't usually act because of a scenario, and you don't want to be below the line, especially if you're in management. But even if you're having a conversation with someone or a friend or whatever, you get into an argument and then you say something nasty, that's being below the line. You want to try to keep yourself above the line, because what you say matters, what you do matters, and people will react to it differently, whether you meant it or not. Like I was talking to someone at work, and they say they don't like to apologize. They'll never apologize, and that's just them. And they told me this super long story, and it was kind of funny because I know that person's like that, because I could tell by how they interact with people. Some people don't like it, but when you understand someone who's avoidant of conflict, it's because they really mean what they say, and they don't necessarily want to hurt people. Or, when they don't care, they definitely want to hurt you, but they don't necessarily want to be quoted and stuff like that. So just getting the dynamics of people can really change your perspective in a way. But not having a clear mind is, in a way, kind of being possessive, in the sense that you think that you can control every outcome that you have. I understand that a lot of people want to be the main character of their story, but sometimes you're a side character. And I'm not calling anybody an NPC or a follower or anything like that, but sometimes you don't matter. And I'm not saying that whatever this situation you're in, you don't matter. It's just that sometimes you're not even the factor, in the sense that, like, let's say someone blows up on you, because this is something that happened to me recently. Someone's not talking to me anymore because they blew up, and I'm like, I'm not the type of person who's gonna deal with someone blowing up for no reason. And if I'm at a certain point, I'm just not going to read a message or talk to the person for a bit until I'm above the line, and then I'll talk to you. Because if you're talking to me crazy and you get me to a certain point, I'm going to talk to you crazy. And the people who've dealt with me talking them crazy or being rude on purpose or being mean, I could like completely destroy a person. And that's not nice. And what I mean by destroy a person, I'll make you feel really bad and you'll think about it for days. And it is what it is. I'm not really going to apologize because, this is what you asked for. You pushed me to that point. But going back to what was I saying? I don't remember what I was saying. But anyways, clearing your mind is knowing when to react, when to be able to converse or even act, right? Sometimes we need to take a day off to clear our mind. And when the stresses of life just kind of collapse in on us, we need to take the time to find ourselves once again and have a clear mind. You need to know what clears your mind, and sometimes you need to take a time to rest, especially when it's something that you can't control. And in this life, there's only so much that we can control. And even the things that we think we can control, sometimes we really can't. I could be shooting this episode right now, and something might happen to me, and this becomes a completely lost episode. And I have no control over that. So that's something that we have to think about, where how much can I control and what can't I control? And the things that I can't control, how am I going to let that affect me? I recently watched a couple of videos on YouTube, and it made me end up searching this channel called, I think it was called like Soft White Underbelly. And there was this couple that were in, like, you could search it, it's like a master slave relationship. And I was like, what the heck? I read the headline and I was just like, oh, okay, I want to see what this is. But after listening to the episode, it really put me into like a different mindset, and it made me think about, what am I doing with my life, or what am I choosing to be disciplined in? Even recently, I have a friend who's working in another country, and they were talking about how the work ethic is different compared to where we are, and some of the stereotypes about that country are very true, and they don't really understand why people are like that. And that's the thing. There's certain things that we will never understand. I posted a story on my Instagram, and it was from this artist that I do listen to occasionally. His style of music changed a lot, so it's hit or miss now for me. But he does have he does have a lot of good music. But it was a concept piece of whether to pretend to understand something, or to try to understand something, or just leave it as is. Sometimes you want to fit in, but you're not going to fit in. Sometimes you're trying to understand, but you won't understand. And all of that is fine, because at the end of the day, there's things that you want to do in your life. And if that's not working out for you with whatever you're doing, if it's not going towards what you want to do, you need to stop and think, is this for me? And what am I going to lose if I stop doing whatever this random thing is? That came to me because I've been talking to a lot of people at work, and some of my favorite workers are leaving. And I'm like, hey, why are you guys leaving? What's going on? And they're talking about PR because they're immigrants. And despite them being really good workers, what is their number one goal? Their number one goal is to get permanent residence. So if they need to move to bootfuck nowhere, to increase their chances of being able to stay here, they're going to do it. We're kind of in a society where whether you were born here or you immigrated here earlier in life, we don't realize how much harder it is in some other places. And there's a lot of stuff that we're not willing to sacrifice to do more. So the whole point and concept of this episode is stop what you're doing and think about what you want to do. Are the things that you're doing now pushing you towards your goal? Or is it holding you back? Are you getting to your purpose? Or are you enjoying the many treats on the way to your path of success? Is your path of success what you want now? Is your end goal what you want now? Is life going the way that you want it to? And what are you going to do to change that? Are you disciplined enough to get to where you want? Or are you just going with the flow and hoping things work out for you? Recently, I've been grasping at a lot of straws. And what I mean by that is I've been getting into a lot of things, but I had to stop and think, am I doing all of this stuff to avoid something else? What is the bigger issue? Or am I trying to run away from something? Or am I trying to live to an expectation that isn't necessarily me? And it's got me thinking a lot. So to clear my mind, I made this episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this piece. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Take care.